Spartans! What is your profession? This is Sparta!
What is going on, everybody? We're back at another stream, another night, another conversation, and a new setup. Still working on it, so I apologize on the angles are not the greatest, but we're gonna work with it today. I'm still working on this setup, so bear with me, guys, for the next couple of days so I get this squared away. So, as I was talking last Thursday, when I screwed up my titles, this is the second part of mental health I want to talk about. And yes, this is also dedicated to Paul's mother, Mr. President. So, when we left out last week, we talked about a little bit about, how to deal with mental health. That gave me time to think a little bit. Do you ever actually figure out how to deal with mental health? That is a question I have. I don't think you ever deal with it. You kind of like learn how to just go with it, kind of thing. I don't want to say dealing with it is the right word. I would say more learn how to live with it, because there's so many different types of mental health, so different types of, I don't want to say diseases, but stuff you're dealing with life. Let's be honest here, guys. Life will deal with us every single day. You get kicked in the balls on a daily basis. And you're never, ever going to ever give up, unfortunately. As much as you want to give up, it's going to be very hard to give up. It's one of those things you kind of have to deal with. And that's where how I stand. For the longest time, I gave shit for mental health. I was like, this is stupid, it's bullshit, it's only cowards, baby shit, yeah. Oh, the whole 9 yards. You say it, I did it. I said it. But over time, I learned that's not the factor. Again, I said it last week. I said it. My other shows I've done on mental health. That's why I'm tackling at least one subject of mental health a month, because I think something we need to keep bringing it up around like a big circle over and over and over. And something that is very, very important. We should need to keep talking about it on a daily basis. But I don't want to beat the horse with it either. So at least once a month, I think is very healthy enough to talk about it. Unfortunately, as much we continue talking about it, I don't think we're gonna ever understand the science for it. I'm gonna bring up I brought this up last week too. The lead singer from Linkin Park, he was literally screaming for help in his songs, and nobody looked went after him and said, "Hey, you good, man? Do you need help? Do you need anything?" No, just they just dealt with it, unfortunately, and it was one of those things like, come on, he was asking for help. Give me a second, guys. Fix this little issue. And there we go. And I think that is the problem. We did not get people the right help when they needed it. And that is sad. I'm glad I got the help when I did get it. Because if I didn't get it when I did, who knows what would have happened? Who knows what would have been the outcome? That is the difference. And let's say hi to Mariana. All right, I gotta leave this up for a minute. Okay, I gotta thank Mariana for the new setup. I know you guys don't see it on your side, but on this side, she donated a new screen to us. She's a big supporter of the channel. She wanted to help us out. And I was literally joking. I said, "I give you a new screen," and she donated a Samsung big ass fucking screen. So I get give her shouts and her props. So Mariana, thank you for donating and thank you for being such a supporter of the channel. And as always, you're always welcome. You know what, Mariana? I think tonight might be a good night for you to actually get your feet wet a little bit. So I'm going to put the link in the chats. I know you might just got out of the gym, so when you are ready, here you are. Here's the link. I'm gonna also text it to you through Messenger, so you have it. Just give me a second, because I'm still gonna get used to all this goddamn monitors that I have. Never thought it'd be a problem having too many monitors. That's why I'm getting used to this. All right, give me a second, guys. But yes, mental health has always been something that I never took seriously, guys, till now. And it's something that I need to take seriously. We all do. Because end of the day, we're here for a limited time on this planet. Why waste it? Why waste it? Seriously, guys, why waste the time? Mariana, I send you the link through Facebook. So when you're ready, just click on it. I showed you the other day how to follow the steps. So do the same thing you did the other day. So here's the thing, guys. Do I personally believe in mental health medication? The answer is I do not know. I don't know because I have never been on it. But there are other people who have been on it who say it does help. And some other people says I was forced to be on it. I was never forced to be on medication, thank God. But I was forced as a kid to see a therapist. And when you're forced, it's never, never, never going to work. So I want to break some things down. I have some notes here I want to go over. First of all, we got to figure out what type of mental health you fall under. Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Is it panic attacks? And so on. So they can determine, the professionals can determine what type of medication. I do have a list here, and originally I was going to go over a couple of these medications, but I decided not to. For biggest reasons, I am not a professional health professional who says, "Hey, take these medications. It's gonna solve your headaches, or it's gonna give you a boner, or whatever." I am not a health professional. I think it'd be inappropriate and not right for me to even talk about these specific each one of them. I've done a little research on them the best I could. Again, I'm not in that field. I work in the health, part of the cooking side of it, not the actual health part. So I don't want to talk about this, about break down each one individually. Um, okay, how these medication work. Each one works individually to the brain. Usually, not always, usually, say 10 out of 5 people, or 10 out of 10, or whatever the number is, I'm not sure. It usually is a chemical misbalance in the brain where mental health usually comes in. In my case, it's not a um what we're looking for, mental chemical misbalance. Is actually something else. It's just life. It's called getting kicked in the balls way too many times to the point that it hurts so much. I don't know what the fuck to do. So then the third part of it is the side effects, um, which could be so many different things. Some of 'em can be weight gain, drowsiness, dry mouth, itchiness, and so on. These are normal side effects you see in any type of medication. Again, guys, if you have any questions and you aren't in any type of medication, please go see a professional. I'm not a professional. Let's get that through out now. Now, Goso Sparta is not a professional. He's a chef. That's it. Um, personal treatments are on each individually. That is number 4 topic. These are specifically groomed to you, meaning they have find out what's going on with you. And anxiety, um you have anxiety, depression, or whatever, so they can prescribe you and diagnose you the correct way. Have they been misdiagnosed? Absolutely. And that's a whole different topic. But I was literally having a conversation with somebody recently about this. And the conversation I had with this individual was, I have seen several therapists, but they don't work. You may need to go through 1, 2, 3, even up to 40 different therapists to find the right therapist for yourself. But once you find the right therapist, that's it. You're a golden after that. So, hang on, guys. Let me fix this screen. It's really bothering me the way I'm looking at you guys here. Trying to figure this. Don't like how that's coming out too much, to be honest with you guys. All right. So, in the comments, tell me how am I looking at you guys, because the camera is like all over the place the way I have set up. If I have to adjust it, please let me know. I will. What was that? Now the fifth one I have on the list is long-term versus short-term use. Again, that is comes out of the professional and you. How well are you doing with your mental health? If you get to the point that you don't need any more medication, you get to the point like, you know what, I'm straight, then good, do that. You don't, as much I hate to say this, because I am a recently again quit smoker. Sometimes lighting one up is the best medication, believe it or not. And I'm going to talk about other type of light ups in a minute. I want to go through my list first. Common misunderstanding. You need to understand what are you taking before you pursue that route. Do your research. Understand I am taking X, Y, and Z. Very simple. That's how it is supposed to be. Make sure you know what you're taking very well, because that is very, very serious to know what you're taking. If you don't know what you're taking, that can screw you in a big time. Okay, and the last one in Give me 1 second, guys, because I'm blocking the screen here a little bit. Uh, yeah, yep. Damn it. Figures. There you go. What is going on, Mariana? You're on the air. I
Hey,
can hear
what's
you.
up?
Hey, can you speak a little
Can
louder
you
to
hear
your
me
mic?
now?
Yeah, hang on. Let me raise your volume. And give me a second to get Paul in here. Hey, Paul, what's
Okay.
going on, brother? How are you, man? You're
I'm
muted.
good.
All right. So let's go around the table and see what you guys think about this topic. Paul, let's have the floor first because you're more experienced with this little than anybody else. I literally just started. I have 16 minutes into it. I just went over a couple pointers. I know you dealt with it with your mother. Again, like I said earlier, I don't know if you catch the beginning. This is dedicated to your mother, the show.
Mhm.
So the floor is yours. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I get a little more
You
context. What
talking to
specifically
me?
do you want to?
I'm
Now,
sorry.
What
Maria,
specifically do
hang
you
on
want
one
to?
second. Pause up right now. Give me 1 second. All right.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Context is pretty much about mental health medication. Does it work? Does it not work? Should you be long term, short term, side effects? Should you see a professional before you're taking stuff? In general, what's your experience with that?
Well, absolutely. You need to see a professional before taking any kind of prescription. You can't get those drugs without a prescription anyway. So you're going to have to see somebody who's going to prescribe that to you. And more than likely, if it's a mental health
Breaking.
medication, you're going to have to be under that doctor's care with follow up visits and the like. So I think there's levels to this. So one, yeah, everybody, yeah, definitely you need to be evaluated to see if you're going to be on them or not. But there's levels to this. So there's certain tiers of medications that deal with, I would say, very crudely, I would say for the average person. So most people, you're dealing with some sort of stress or you're dealing with some anxiety of some kind and how you respond. Now, stress is a physical response to a mental situation. Salute, good to see you tonight. So there's drugs that are out there that are supposed to help your body manage that physical thing. So a lot of people don't get nervous, they get sweaty, right? Or the heart starts beating fast, or a combination of different things, and you start losing some perspective because of just the physical stresses that you're under. Again, stress is physical, but it's triggered by an emotional thing. So you have things like, again, you got your Xanaxes, and you have your Abilify, and things like that are, people will use in order to combat some of those symptoms, especially if you are either one, you don't have the perspective. I think mentally, I think part of it is also how do you deal with stress. Some people work in environments. I think, quite frankly, I think the world we're in is such where it's much more complex than what it may have been intended to be. Um, there's some things I like about the complex world, and a lot of things I don't. But not everybody can handle that. And again, we for thousands of years up until very recently, we were agrarian society where the only stresses that we had was uh, getting something to eat, so fighting off starvation, fighting off animals, or fighting off other warring factions that were trying to take us out. So that was our life for many thousands of years, and without much interruptions. About survival, and that was basically it. But I think certainly in recent years, we've created a very complex world with a social order and just mores in terms of how the world works. It changes, it varies from culture to culture, and not everybody is necessarily equipped to handle that. Not everyone is gifted with emotional intelligence to do things. I mean, not everyone has the same capacity. And so for some of those people, like, how do you deal with that? And so I think the societies that we're in helps to add on stress And if you're not one who has the capability of how to manage that well, or if you haven't been taught how to manage stress well, then certainly some of these drugs can certainly help you. But again, to help you relax and help you to, again, not deal with the stresses of life. And that's why, certain people now are going to, like, weed and those type of substances, mushrooms and high uh 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 not ayahuasca. It's what's the other one? It's is it ayahuasca? It might be yeah, ayahuasca. I think I might have made a mistake one time. I think I called it ashwagandha, but that's like a herbal supplement. But ayahuasca, things like that, to kind of relieve or alleviate. And we talked about on the smoking show, on the gray area, we talked about how people use these medicinal herbs and tobacco and things of that nature for um alter states of consciousness or relaxation, or just different methods it was used. But I think in this complex world, I mean, I think those are still options that people will go to. Some people go to alcohol to relax themselves. But I think just overall, and again, I keep talking about science fiction and movies in particular. I keep bringing up this movie again. I think everybody should watch it at least once if you haven't already. Rollerball, 1975. In similar movies like it, there's a common theme in the films, is that the public is oftentimes controlled by drug use, giving them a different reality, an altered reality. Good evening, Mariana. That helps them to deal with the stresses. It's easier to pop a pill than to do the mental work, to do medication. So yeah, so Catella's talking about deep breathing, meditation and things that that sort of thing. But that's work. That's focus. That's like when we talked about on the last grade, when we talk about reading, you have to commit yourself to that. And a lot of people don't have the discipline to put that sort of time in. So it's like, look, let me take a pill. And that's how in a lot of science fiction, that's how a lot of times it's propagated. It's like, hey, you're stressed or whatever, you're in a bad mood, here, take a pill, and boom, you'll go to sleep. That's another thing. I think because of the stresses that people have, I think people don't get enough sleep. And I think sleep is certainly essential. And I'm not preaching that. I'm guilty as anybody. I get 5-6 hours of sleep a night. I probably need to get more. But 5 or 6 is kind of average for me. Maybe I may get sleeping on the weekend or grab a nap later in the weekend. But lack of sleep, or your inability to sleep, can certainly prevent the body from resetting itself. So again, some people take certain things, and some people can get away with some herbal tea and some aromatherapy. Other people, they may need something a little bit stronger to get them down, somas and different things. So again, so that's a level. It's like, how do you cope with your day to day? How do you move in the world, and how do you how you can get some proper sleep, and how you can respond under pressure. So there's uppers, there's downers, there's stimulants, there's relaxants, there's all kinds of things in those categories. Some of these things you need a prescription for, some of these things you can buy over the counter. But when you talk about, when you get to the, like where my mother was, and certainly other members of my family, when you're talking about having to be institutionalized, when you're talking about when you develop psychosis, where literally your mind or how you perceive the world in front of you changes. When you start hearing voices in your head that are as real as my voice speaking now, when you start looking at reality in just totally different ways, that's another level. And so there's other medications that are there. There's drugs specifically for things like that, for bipolar. To me, that's very different than dealing with stress and anxiety, or schizophrenia, what my mother had, or the paranoia. When people get to that level, then to me, it's almost like it's another conversation. And now, as far as whether or not those things help or not, I think the current trend now in mental health is for the person who's taking it, one, to do no harm to others or to do no harm to themselves. And so I think for a lot of these medications, they're meant to inhibit psychotic outbursts, violent outbursts. Again, my daughter, she works in a mental health facility, and she's had to get physical on more than one occasion, or have people come in and hold a patient who's having a psychotic or schizoid episode while they inject them with something to calm them down. So again, so that seems to be the current method by which you do things. You want to limit the ability for someone to kind of act out. Now, the trade-off there is that they don't have, in my view, they don't have the full complement of expression, of emotions, of reality. It's a dulling, you know. And again, but it's going to be different for everybody. Some people are able to work with it in order to get back and have a healthy role in society. Again, my mom, she was a member of a program for many years that helped. It was almost like a halfway house. So like the worst case was like, you were institutionalized. That was like, you're a danger to yourself and to the public, so you can't be out in that. So you're going to be institutionalized. But there were programs in place that allow people to kind of live a sort of supervised but somewhat still free life. So they would offer, for example, housing that you can live sort of independently, come and go as you please, but you still had to check in. You had visits from counselors and whatnot that would come to the house and give you, kind of see how things were going. You still were under the care of the mental health professional. You still had to take your medications. Those things were measured, but so it was almost like a halfway house kind of deal. And for many years, my mom was able to function in that role, even helping other patients for a while. But I still got the sense that what she had, she never truly came to terms with what she had. So she never said, like, you know what, I'm a paranoid schizophrenic. Like it's not like AA, it says, hi, I'm an alcoholic. It's not like that. They had to kind of couch it in such ways that, yeah, but this environment is helpful so I can be better. But I don't know if anybody comes to that conclusion when you develop that level of psychosis. So it was about managing it, and she was pretty good for some time. I mean, there were some false starts, and then that's the one thing with it as well. My mom, she was very good at masking or acting to an extent. So it would get to a point where she would develop a certain level of independence and be able to have a high function. And a lot of times what they would do is they would pull back on, because, there was also a philosophy like, we don't want to over medicate people if you don't have to. So you would be on a program, be on a certain level of medication, certain amount of milligrams of this or that, and say, hey, you know what, she's doing really well. Hey, you know what, let's pull it back. Instead of getting 20 milligrams or something, give her 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams or something. And with that pulling back, then there was always the regression. So again, those demons, those monsters, if you want to call them that, they would kind of creep themselves back in. And then she would become the monster again. And then she would have to go back in. And so for a lot of years, it was this yo-yo effect. She developed, she did very well while in program, probably better than most. And she would get to a high level of function, which earned her a certain amount of freedom. But then she couldn't operate well under that freedom, especially if there was any kind of financial or any kind of stress. Like I said, it started out with stress or anxiety, especially if it came to like income or whatever. Any kind of external stressors could easily turn her off. And she would revert back to some of those things. She wouldn't take her medications a lot of times. She's like, I don't need, I'm good now. I'm fine. I don't need all the stuff. And then it would always regress back. So there's always, with the current drugs that are out there. So you got like Depakote and Risperidone and Abilify and, some of these things. It's management, it's tempering down. But as far as, there's no cure for any of this stuff yet. at least I think what's good is that I think people understand there's a biochemical um, element to this, which is again certainly different from the other again stress and anxieties that a lot of people deal with. And so yes, I have. Like I said, my mom was in one for a lot of years, so I know all about it. That's the point I'm saying. It's like a lot of these drugs and medications, clearly they're not cures for anything. But I think oftentimes what they do is they use these drugs again. The idea again, first, do no harm to self and do no harm to others. And there, like I said, there is a dulling of senses, some of the things that you're talking about. And so, and again, I don't know my mom's full history with that. I think probably maybe 7-8 years ago was when I got really intimate with what she was on, and what also complicated that was that she was on a bunch of other stuff for all kinds of other things. She had diabetes, and she had high blood pressure, and so again, so she had a cocktail of medications that she had to be on.
So she's on a lot of stuff, correct, Paul?
Yeah. So that also with age and things of that nature. So you have those considerations and how these drugs interact with one another. But like I said, for many years she was able to have a somewhat high level of function, but it would always short circuit. It would always go awry at some point. I mean, she was never as bad as some people I've seen in those wards. I mean, and like I said, with my daughter, she has a story for me almost every night about somebody who, got aggressive. She's been called every word, every racial slur you can think of. She's been called. Her life has been threatened many more times than I can care to mention. And so she, so this is what she's, had to deal with while dealing with her own, stresses and anxieties, just trying to hold it together. So, she was able to hold it together, but the painful part was that it was almost like Charlie Brown in the football. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was younger, she didn't really go into institutional state until I was about 13, 14 years old. That was the first time she was actually institutionalized. For a lot of years prior to that, she was just like she was like a nomad. She would travel. She was like a gypsy. She traveled from place to place. I was with her for a good portion of that, and I had to deal with a lot of that. So she was, meandering until she actually got institutionalized. And how she got institutionalized is that she had to commit a violent act. Because once you get law enforcement involved, you can't just say, okay, my mom's crazy, so lock her up. You can't do that. Mm-hmm. Either the person has to volunteer and say, look, I need help. I need to be in this situation. You have an intervention of some kind, which never worked. There were several interventions that were made in the past. But again, it's an altered state of reality. So it's like, look, it's wrong. Y'all just trying to get me. Y'all against me. Y'all turned on me or whatever. And y'all the enemy. And y'all Satan and all this kind of stuff. So it never went anywhere. And so so until she did something that brought the law enforcement in, the law enforcement brought her in, and then they evaluated her, and then she was put into a mental ward at the hospital, and then that got her into the system, and she basically stayed in that system for better for worse for the rest of her life. Again, several stints in different facilities and whatnot, but it was a lot of yo-yo, a lot of start and stop. So I had to. Mentally, I had to kind of tune out a little bit. I had to, have a more pessimistic attitude when it came to her, because I would be very hopeful. It's like, hey, she's getting better and whatnot. But I had to understand that it's not about her necessarily getting better. It's more so about her, again, do no harm to self or to others, and just accept the situation for what it was. A lot of my siblings, we weren't, not everybody was on board. It took me a long time to get to that, to say, look, mom isn't getting, mom's getting better anytime soon. So again, it's about managing the situation more so than finding a cure or something like that. And I hope to God in the future that, in the next few years that they can come up with, better drugs or certain things that can do that to set right that chemical balance. But I mean, you talk about billions of cells there. So I mean, that's a complex. We talk about going into space and exploring the oceans and stuff like that, but probably the most complex thing to explore is the mind itself, and we only know a fraction of that. And so, that's kind of where that is. So Taylor's talking about a crisis unit. Again, I don't think at the time, this was, you're talking almost 40 years ago. So I don't know if they had those kind of units that were at the time. Maybe you might be more up on what they do today. The only thing I know that they don't do today is especially in New Jersey, they don't use straitjackets anymore or any kind of restraints, like physical restraints. You can't tie people down to the bed anymore. Absolutely. It's a huge roller coaster. And like I said, for me, I had to kind of tune off. I had to turn my emotions off and be very more like business-like. Like for the latter part of her life, starting probably 2016, 2017, I basically ran all her affairs, her and my dad. I took care of their doctor's visits, their medical, their insurance, I ran it I became power of attorney. So I was overseer over everything, but I had to treat it like a business. Like, this isn't my mother, this is my client. And so that was kind of how I was able to get through that, by having like an emotional disconnect, because I couldn't go back to those places where it's like, hey, can I have a relationship with my mom? It was just tough. But I can take care of the business. I can go down, I can sign the paperwork, I can go down to social services, I can go and do all the stuff. And so I relied on other family members. If like, hey, if y'all can go and hang out with her and paint her nails and make her feel good and crack jokes with her, whatever, tell those stories. Because they were actually more intimately involved with my mother than I was literally growing up. Because when they were growing up until about probably at the time I was born, so you're talking about maybe like 69, no, actually maybe mid 60s, 65, 66, she was pretty good, and my siblings, they talk about the good times they had and everything, but something changed like in the mid to late 60s, and this stuff started coming on. But again, back then nobody knew barely what was going on, and they just had to deal with it. So they saw it, but when I came around, that's all I knew. I mean, there was no good times and bad times. It was just, you never knew who you were coming home to every day. So, but they had better times. When my mom and dad were together and that family time, and, they did a lot of great things together, but it just changed. So I don't know what would have been worse. I think that might have been more hurtful had I lived in that time, because like I said, it's what I knew. But to see somebody who was a perfectly functioning and productive person devolve into this state, that's got to be hard also. And again, paranoid schizophrenia. So that's.
Do you remember when she was diagnosed?
This was 84, 83, 84. So you're talking about like almost a 20 year period where, again, nobody could tell her anything. You know what I mean? You can't just say, hey, well, basically it is a schizophrenia is basically it's a chemical imbalance that happens in the brain that starts to alter, again, your sense of reality. It's oftentimes coupled with paranoia. So again, it's like when you start hearing voices, it's when your reality becomes again changed. How you see people, how you see situations, again, the voices in your head that start telling you things or start warping your reality, how you see reality, a lot of those things. And again, with hers, it was like, the devil's after me, or this person's after me, or someone's trying to get me, or someone's trying to take, or she would have these delusions of grandeur about what she had, that she owned property that she didn't own, or that she been to places that she never been, or so again, it's just a lot of things involved, but it all right. So with me, so I'm the youngest of 5, and my brother's 6.5 years older than me, and my siblings, though, they're about 2 to 3 years apart. So about 2.5, 3 years. I'm 6.5. So I was the one who wasn't supposed to be here, because, like I said, by the time I came around, my parents were basically split up. And again, there was always my father's drinking didn't help, but certainly her paranoia and schizophrenia that started to kick in. So it was just a lot of things that were just, off. But, but yes, yeah, so she had 4 relative, again, a couple years apart, kind of spread them out. And then I'm 6.5 years, the next one up. But that being said, so that world, that she was in for a long time, like I said, I don't know what would have been harder to deal with, whether or not you deal with seeing someone devolve, or just accept it like this is how my mom's always been. I think your how you assess the situation, or how your perception of reality. I think that you know that changes how you think of things. So I think for my siblings, my older ones, I think for a lot of ways it was harder for them to accept, because it's like, no, my mom was good and she could be good again. My thing was, she was always, she would be great at times, but she would be bad at times. So again, it was like, literally like Jekyll and Hyde. You didn't know. I can come home from school, and depending on how her day went, she could be in a state that was just total 180. Or it could happen, I'm at home and everything's quiet and fine, and then she just yells out of nowhere and just goes into this rant about the world or whatever, or Satan, or something, just far out. You know what I mean? And so again, like I said, it was very difficult to deal with. So I just want to take this. I think I've given enough. Hope I've answered most people's questions on this, but getting back to the drug. So yeah, so I think when a certain person's in that kind of mindset, where they need that kind of medication, again, it's to tamp things down. But yeah, there are people who will walk around like zombies, because if you let them out, again, they could be violent. They can, so that's the thing that you have to manage. So yeah, man. So on any level, so again, there's levels to this, from herbal teas and aromatherapy to weed or brownies, to, like I said, ayahuasca, to whatever you want to go up, to Xanax, Prozac. Now Prozac, I think that's really has a history. I mean, that's mostly given to kids, and I know that there's some big negatives with that in terms of with that. So I don't want to get into that one too much. I think a lot of people are definitely not on the Prozac bandwagon, but like I said, it just goes up in levels depending on what it on what it is. But that's fine. That's fine. But hopefully it might have been good to go through that, because again, it's like I said, you can't compare that type of situation with somebody who's just, and again, I'm not trying to minimize those who deal with angst and stress and anxieties. But like I said, there is levels to this. And at each level, there's treatment. But I think with the lower levels, I would say this, that you could probably do more with maybe a change in your lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody is meant to be in the pressure cooker of life. And if that may mean, I may not make as much money, or I may not have as many material things or whatever, what, maybe a simplified lifestyle might be a better option. So I don't have to deal, because, being in they call it the jungle or the rat race or whatever it is, not everyone's cut out for that. Even though society is telling you that, yeah, you got to go and do these things. You got to go to school and go to college and get a career, and, the rat race. I've seen a lot of people get burned out in corporate. I've seen lawyers quit. I've seen doctors quit. I've seen people on Wall Street quit, because again, they just can't handle it. And in trying to handle it, they may do a variety of things in terms of, again, the substances to try to keep themselves up. Again, you're taking uppers, you're taking downers, you're taking relaxers, you're trying to have a normal state of function, or whatever the situation you're in, you'd want to be ready for it. But I don't know if any, for some people, the best thing may be, you know what, I don't need this. And some people, I think, made the wise move and walked away. I know people who, it was like on the family history, it's like my dad was a lawyer and, I was going to be a lawyer, or I was going to be this. And my dad was a pastor and I got to be a pastor, or whatever it is. And a lot of people's like, you know what, just because my dad did it, or, this is what was expected of me or whatever, you got to know yourself also in terms of what you can and cannot handle. And if that means stepping away and finding your own path, then that may be what you need to do. I'm a big proponent of, I think, certainly adulting is being able to live independently and take care of yourself. I'm kind of old school in the sense I don't think you should be 30, 40 years old on your mom's couch. I think you need to develop a certain level of independence and whatnot. But do you have to go shoot the moon per se? Not necessarily. I mean, look, if making $45,000 a year, but you're happy and you can, take care of yourself and whatnot and doing that, hey, you might be a lot better off than someone who's making $400,000 a year, knowing everything that goes with that. And again, not everybody's built for that. And I think some of that leads to a lot of the angst and the stresses and the anxieties that, then forces you to get on these drugs. And then it becomes harder to get off the drugs. But I think that's even in like I said, even for the non-prescription stuff, like I said, beer, drug, alcohol, now weed is legal in a lot of places or whatever. It's like, it just seems like a lot of people, they just can't function regularly, just normally without some substance. Even those who, now again, I drink coffee, or I may have a soda, like I'll probably have a soda daily, but like a Coke Zero or something like that. But some people can't function if they don't have 5-6 cups of coffee a day. It just goes with the. So I think it's harder for people to make that. Now I think, and again, I'm sure I could tell you she would agree. I'm sure exercise and fitness, I think those are huge for a lot of reasons. Not only what it's doing for you physically, but what it does for you mentally. Having a discipline, having something that you dedicate yourself. You're training the mind just as much as you're training the body, and what it does for your spirit. So I think physical training, the Bible talks about that. The physical training is of some value. So I think there's certainly things you can do. Having a hobby, having an activity that you enjoy, to get out of the stresses that you're in. Now I'm still working. Like, this is my work display that I got up right now. And that's one of the reasons I probably can't be on all night. I might have to drop in the next 10-15 minutes, but it's I'm in that pressure code. We had the big release that we had last month that I was talking about. Well, now it's the cleanup, right? So we get it out the door. Now there's a lot of cleanup, and now there's a lot of stuff because a lot of times you don't know something's going to work until you turn it on. You know what I mean? Live. Like, you can do all the testing that you want. But until it goes live and you hit the volume that you're working with or whatnot, that's when you know something's really down. So I'm sort of in cleanup mode right now, trying to put out all these mini fires that have been out since the release. So in fact, I was up pretty late last night, and I haven't called out. I said, look, you know what? I was up until like 2:30 last night. I said, you know what? I'm working from. I told my boss, you know what? I'm just going to work from home today, so I don't have to do the hour commute into work. And then I work from home on Fridays anyway, so I'm good. So yeah, so those are but this is just the mode that I'm in. But I'm the type of person, though, I'd still rather be overactive than under, because I don't think I function well when I got nothing to do. So yeah, absolutely. Definitely again, the endorphins that you have from training, it's benefit. But look, even sex is good for you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a whole lot of endorphins there also. So if you're married, you got the sex life going. I think
yes,
every once in a while I'll get these stats. They talk about
quite absolutely right.
If people who engage in that sex life, I think you may extend your life 7 years or something like that. And I've heard several kind of studies or pseudo studies talking about that. So look, sex is good for you. So yeah, so anything that again, the endorphins, but again, those can also be stimulated by things that might be not so good for you. So again, it's the right type of endorphins, you know. You got to be careful about that as well, because then you don't want to get addicted to whatever that is. So, but yeah, exercise is good. A healthy sex life, I think, is definitely good. And so there's a lot of things you can do, I would say, quote unquote, naturally, that can help you with these things without having to go to those other substances. But I think what you're seeing now, especially, again, this is America and this is capitalism. So for all you guys who are pro-capitalist, this is what you get. Okay. So you got multi-billion-dollar drug companies pushing a lot of stuff out. And you had, and what I really got me, I remember this might have been maybe 10 or 12 years ago, because I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s or what I did about the drug epidemic or whatnot, and a lot of that marketing was aimed at black people, black and brown people, crack cocaine epidemic and stuff like that, that drugs was a black person's problem. Whereas if you were white in the suburbs or whatever, nobody really talked about it. Or where it really was prevalent, honestly, was actually in the bougie areas. So in Jersey, you go up to yes, it will. You go up to northern Jersey, Sussex County and New York and all these places, all these high-end places. Them kids on drugs too, because they got the money and the means, so they can have the beer bong party when the parents are away, when that in the nice house, and they on the stuff too. So, but it was never prioritized. But I remember maybe about 10 years ago, when all of a sudden I started seeing all these homeless white people like on the street, like begging for money and whatnot. And the thing that was weird was, I would, like you saw me how I was doing when we were in New York, so I'll take a couple dollars out, whatnot, like, here. And the guy started talking, and he didn't sound like some, oh, thank you very much. He was like, oh, well, thank you very much. I was like, listening to the guy. I'm like, wait a minute. This guy sounds pretty intelligent. Like he doesn't fit the profile of somebody who would be homeless. And then that was the first time I started thinking about, this and hearing about this opioid thing. So, you got a lot of these drug companies that are prescribing these drugs to people. And I know 60 Minutes, I know they did a big story on it once, where you had basically these doctors at these health clinics, they're signing these prescriptions out for people, and they basically they're like the new pushers right now. So you talk about the drug deal on the street. Remember New York City, Giuliani time, and cracking down on drug dealers and all this kind of stuff. Well, now the drug dealers have a PhD or a doctor's office or a lab coat on, and they're the ones who are putting stuff out there. So I think the game switched there, and then it's interesting how the language changed, because then it became, well, it shouldn't be about punishment, but prevention, or it's not a thing that they're bad people that just need health care. Oh, it's like, so when it started happening to white people in mass, when people in Maine, who has the highest drug use in the country, is not in New York City or LA or whatever, it's in Maine. When those people started getting hooked on drugs, then you start to hear the politicians changing, saying, hey, we need health care, not jail. But they weren't saying that for the black people and brown people in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, when they had that war on drugs and they were locking people up. So, yeah, so I got some political stuff. I'm not, I don't like to get too overly political, but there's certainly a component there to this. There's a corporate interest to this. There's a capitalism interest to this. So for all you guys who praise capitalism, this is part of what you get. And these companies are able to run wild, having everybody drugged up. But again, that's why I said, go back and watch Rollerball, 1975, and talk about how corporations run the world and they keep everybody sedated. so that nobody knows nothing or no one asks questions about anything. It's like keep people dumb and happy and give them a violent sport, and everything will be fine. So, so that's kind of my. I don't know which more to ask. If someone has anyone has a question, or if you have follow-ups, Peter, that you have for me. Like I said, I do need to go in a little bit because I do have some work I need to tend to here. But yeah, man, it's humanity and drugs seem to be forever increasing joint at the hip, and I don't know if we can ever separate ourselves from
So
it and just be normal.
working in the health industry myself, one thing I seen for years, even before I worked in it, is known for a fact, big pharma controlled us. So
Mm.
they're trying to force all this medication down our throats. Like, for example, there is a vaccine out there for diabetes, but they don't want to do that because insulin and everything pays more versus
Right.
one shot.
Yeah.
You do the math.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like long term, are there any real side effects that you saw from your mother?
It's hard to say in that the side effect in that case is probably considered a benefit. You know what I'm saying? If you're talking
Yeah.
about someone who's truly psychotic and potentially violent and is a danger to someone else, yeah, you could say the side effect is yeah, they're walking around like zombies. But what would you rather have? What would you tolerate? Someone who's willing to delete themselves? Or would you rather have them be a zombie? So yeah, I'm sure there are side effects. Sometimes it's the twitching, it's the shaking, of the hand or something like
Mhm.
that, or the twitch or something like that. Yeah, there's things that are like that again, not good to see. But if you got somebody who's like, I'll delete everybody in this place. Again, because again, my daughter, again, she's dealt with that. Big dudes, big 6'2", 250, 300-pound guys. And you got to get a bunch of people to tie this person down. And what they'll do is they'll inject them with a Haldol or something like that, just to help them calm down. So
So
in
in other
that
words,
case,
what we see in movies, they inject them and stuff like that. It's actually real life.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if my daughter's done it, but she certainly had to,
Go for help or something like that.
that or physically like had to, they teach her techniques like how to, if someone grabs you, how to do. It's almost like martial arts, self-defense. Like they got to
It's
know
joint
how
locks.
to handle some stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you had to put some joint locks in there. No way around him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So in those situations, yeah. So in those cases, yeah, you could say it's a side effect, but consider the alternative. Now, for the person, again, if you're talking about the person with the stress and the anxiety, or the person who again, I think it certainly is always bad if you develop a dependency on something. So I know people who smoke weed just for medicinal purposes and whatnot, but some people just get stoned out. And
Yeah.
I've seen guys who get stoned out or whatever. That's not a good look either. You know what I mean? So if that, or you think you have to, your life is so stressful that it's better to be weeded out or be drunk or whatever, just inebriated again, you're not, at the same time, you're not dealing with the reality that's in front of you. You're just trying to get away from it, or you're trying to dull the reality that's around you. But it still gets down to the point that people, whether either they find themselves growing up in that situation like I did, or through your own actions and in lack of discipline, lack of patience or whatever, lack of discipline, you put yourself in those situations, but the problem is you don't know how to handle it. And so you think, I will do something else instead of dealing with the issue. So what, I got to smoke it away, I got to drink it away, I got to sex it away, I got to do, or whatever drug I can get my hand on. That is, the struggle. That is the um what people have to do there. So yeah, man. I mean, I mean, side effects, it goes with it, but in some cases it can't be helped. Unless they come out with something else that's better with no side effects. But again, there
I
might
don't
be
believe it's gonna be
there
no side
might be stuff out there, but it's the same point you made earlier about the drug industry. There might be something out there right now that you know same effects or whatever, reduces the the psychotic episodes and all that kind of stuff, and fewer side effects. But are the pharmaceutical companies going to let you get that in? Mind you, in this country, it takes 7 years typically for a drug to go through the FDA approval process. 7 years.
That's a long fucking time.
So, and even if it does, then again, there's always going to be, there's, political Senate confirmations or hearings or stuff like that. And you got to there's so much you got to go through. And again, if these folks are not going to, if they're not going to allow these products on the market, then, it's just not going to be good for people. So I think there's a lot of, again, thanks to capitalism and lobbying and everything else, that again, this is what we got. And again, I tried to tell Reckless on a previous episode, we'll never have true capitalism ever, because capitalism must have competition, and you won't have that invisible hand working, because again, there's other interests, especially those who got there first, will be blockers and resistors of those who try to come in after to do something, unless they feel they can profit from it. So I think we will go green someday. I do believe that, but that's only when the companies find a way to make it profitable for themselves, and then that's when I think they'll make the transition. So yeah. So I think that that is part of it. Is there's a lot of crowding at the top, and a lot of people can't get in.
Now, let me ask you another question, Paul. When your mother was finally diagnosed, was that like a breath of fresh air for you, or do you remember that far back when she was diagnosed?
I think at the time I might have treated it as a breath of fresh air. I mean, I've always been the type of person who, as long as I know what's up, I'm good. When I don't know what's up, I'm not as good. I like, me, I like stats. I like figures. I like information. I like research. I like whatever. So you tell me what's up, then I'll deal with that. You know what I mean? Don't tell me everything is fine and it's not, and I got to, go to something else. So yeah, I think in some ways it did help to understand. I mean, you knew she wasn't well just based on your lived experience, but having that information, it was like, okay, where do you go from here? The frustrating part about that was there's no place to really go from here. Like I said, there's management. And like I said, she had at certain times, at certain periods of her life, it was almost cyclical. She would go through a program, ace the program. Because again, she was the when she was good, best person saint, Mother of the Earth, Mother Teresa, give you the clothes off her back, do anything for you, the nicest, friendliest, warmest, caringest, lovingest person. It's just, oh my gosh, we love her. Everybody just can't get enough of her. But again, she would build up to a certain point, plateau, and then it would go, and then it would regress. It's just like the alcoholic is like, hey, you know what? I beat this thing. Now I can go have a drink or two. Now I got, but
you relapsed again.
It relapsed. So that, like I said, that was the hardest thing.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, but that was the hardest thing, going through that roller coaster, that up and down cycle. We're back here again. Like I said, this was somebody who dedicated a lot of her work history to helping others in the system. She was a counselor to other people in the system, but she still succumbed to the same things that she was trying to counsel people for. So yeah, so that was, like I said, that was the hardest part. So again, I developed a very cold demeanor, a very flat line basically when it came to her, because especially when it became apparent that I had to start managing her affairs. And like I said, 2016, my oldest siblings, they couldn't do it mentally, they didn't have the capacity to do it, they didn't have the patience to do it, or logistically it didn't work out because they weren't in the area. I got two sisters who live in the Vegas area. So it was it was something where, like, look, this is going to be on me. And so the only way I knew how to really deal with that was to, again, I had to treat it like business. So when I became her power of attorney, and I was all business, and that was thank you. And that's kind of how I got
I
through
like the idea. We're gonna make some profit 50-50 here.
it. So that was the so that was again how I was able to to manage it. But
Mhm.
but yeah, man, it's it was it was tough, and it wasn't until she really passed. So really, it was weird because I remember one of the last times I saw her before she passed. Um, I don't know what happened. I just had a release because like every time I would see her, it would almost be like my guard was up. You know what I mean? Like it was just very be ready for anything or be prepared for whatever. And it was always kind of tense every time I went and saw her. And a lot of times I would go to the center to pay a bill or pay her, make sure affairs. A lot of times I would go and do the business and leave. It wasn't like every time I went to the facility that I went and saw her. And so like I said, but yeah, I would bring the family, especially holiday, her birthday time. We'd bring the dog, I would make it at times I would make it as family friendly as possible. I would take videos and pictures. We do live streaming with my siblings across the country and whatnot. And so I did, again, a lot of things to not only give her comfort, but also to my family, my extended family, because I was the information pipeline. Anything that happened with her, if she got sick or whatever, I also had to disseminate the information as best as I knew it. Um, um, so I did a lot of those things. And so I tried to keep that environment, but on a personal level, I had to be detached. So yeah, I'd be like, here, I'm here to make a bill, make a payment. So why don't I go up and see mom to see how she's doing? No, a lot of times I wouldn't. It was just as long as she's all right. Facility is like, I would have monthly meetings. I would have quarterly meetings with the staff, with the counselors, whatever. They would keep me up on what I needed to know. It's like, okay, do you want to do this or that or whatever? Okay, how do you want her health directives going? I said, okay, let's do this, let's do that. No, we're not doing that. Again, I just managed it like a business.
See, I give you more credit than I would have done it. Me personally, if I was in there, paying her monthly bill or whatever I need to do, I would always swing by her room. The reason is because I worked in a nursing home, I currently work, and I worked in past.
Mhm.
I worked in really good ones, decent ones, and very shitty ones. And those really shitty ones that you have to be very careful because of abuse. There's so
Yeah,
different kind of abuse.
yeah,
It's physical, it's financial, it's sexual,
correct,
it's mental. It's so many different abuse.
correct.
So me knowing that already, I'm on guard. If I ever put my mother in, and that's the conversation
I
me
feel
and
you.
her the other day when she threw her goddamn phone at me again.
Mhm.
Yes, she threw her phone at me again. Um, and I try to explain to her. She goes to me, you should just put me in a nursing home. I go to her like, you don't want to go there. So it's the last option because they're not going to give you the same attention that a loved one does.
Mhm.
You handle it a little different than I would.
Well, in regards to the nursing home, which she eventually did wind up in because her condition, like I said, not only just her mental health, but just her health, period. Dementia started setting in. She lost she couldn't drive anymore. I mean, she was just starting to lose some
Everything.
things.
Mhm.
And it got to a point where she needed 24-hour care. Like she had set up, like I said, when she was in that sort of halfway house type of arrangement, she had a home health aide came every day from 9 to 2 every
Mhm.
day, made sure she was bathed, made sure she ate, she had her morning meds, her diabetic medications, all that stuff. But the problem was, again, after 2 o'clock, she got to a point where she wasn't taking care of herself or doing what she needed to be doing. And so a lot of times I would go by there like after like 7 p.m., 8 p.m., and she's lethargic. She's like almost going into catatonic shock because her insulin dropped. So her blood sugar dropped. You know, um, so yeah, it got to a point where look, you got to be around her all the time. And I knew I wasn't in the situation, even though I got the big house that you said that you saw. She ain't living with
Beautiful
us.
house, by the way.
Thank you. She ain't living with us though. that was I knew that wasn't an option given her state of being, given my wife and I's work schedule, given her, her situation, that wasn't happening. So
Let me ask
a
you
lot
a
of people,
question here.
what's that? Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, scenario for a second. So let's say you were making more than enough money. Your wife doesn't have to work, and she was a stay-at-home housewife, stay-at-home mom kind of thing. In that case, would your wife would say,
No,
"Hey,
no,
God damn, let me
because
put the
because
question
because
first."
because and again, and I understand this because again, my mother, my wife's mom, she didn't have the mental illness like my mother had. She had dementia. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And she got to a point where she was like, very
Out
mentally
there.
challenged. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. The what do you call it? The Alzheimer's and all that. She went in that direction. And it was her middle sister, who was a nurse, who did most of the care for her. But I know my wife. If it was her own mom, I don't think she would have the patience. I mean, that's what I thank God for my middle sister. She is tough as nails. She is steady, and and I think in a lot of families, I mean, a lot of people think, well, just because, yes, she did, just because you're a sibling, that doesn't make you equipped to handle stuff. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
It's always you think, oh, well, it's the family. You should take care of your mom. Whatever. Like I said, there's some people who can and some people who can't. You think everybody is, if you build a business, not every member of the family should be running your business. It's like the Godfather, right? It's like we already knew that who was the middle brother? You had Michael, you had Sonny, and you had um oh geez, who was the guy? Uh Vito was the father, and I forget, but the middle brother, right? But he was kind of like the idiot, right? You're not gonna turn the business over to him. You know what I mean? Not everyone is meant to be or is capable of being what you want them to be. So when it comes to care for a parent, it's kind of like, and it's weird because and there were a couple occasions where people were like, "Well, look, you need to do X, Y, and Z," and I'd be like, "Look, you're not in this situation. You're not even in the area. Respectfully, you need to keep your mouth shut because unless you're willing to take this on, yes, I understand what you may think, what I need to do. But again, I got to work with, again, we talk about stress management. I got to work with what works best, not only for her, but works best for me and my family and my dynamic and situation. I got kids I'm raising here. So I got to factor all of that in. And
Yeah, I
so
totally understand that because
So
I had a
nobody can
similar.
just come in and say,
Sorry, go
"Oh,
ahead.
well, you should move her in with you." I'm like, "Well, you move her in if you think that's the if that's the move to make." So again, so you have to do that kind of assessment. So for us, it wasn't that difficult a decision on whether or not she should live in a home or not. But where the work had to come in was you have to do your research and what facilities. That's why you have to visit. And yeah, there were certain places I went to in the area. And they were basically, it was like The Walking Dead when you went in there. I mean, straight up. So to Catalia's earlier point, yeah, some of those places like, I was in there for like 5 minutes. So like, no, we out of here. You know, it was like you literally go to die, or you put somebody in there hoping that they'll die a couple months after they go in. Yeah, that wasn't working. So yeah, so going from homes, several nursing homes that I visited, the facility, the staff, the reviews. Just like any other major decision that you're going to do in your life, whether you buy a house or a car or research a job or opportunity, you got to still do your work. And not every facility is better than another one. And I'm sure even the facility that she was at, not everybody was happy with it, but I was treated relatively well. They were pretty attentive. I mean, if my mom tripped over herself and fell and she was perfectly fine, I would get a phone call. So hey, we just calling. First thing they always say, I say, "Hi, this is the nurse from Somerset Woods. Your mother's fine." That's the first thing that they say. Mom's fine, but she had a fall. She's back in her chair, but we just wanted to tell you. Boom. Thank
The
you very
nursing
much.
home my father's in New York is government run. It's state because he's he didn't even have a choice because of his income at the time, and I can't afford to take care of two grown-up babies at the time. And I still can't. And he has my dad's like all screwed up after his car accident. The car ran him over. And I told that on our trip. But anytime he falls or anything happens, he goes, they call him, hey, John's okay. That's my father's first name, by the way. He goes, John's okay, but he fell. His roommate called us, yada yada. Okay, cool. That's what I like. There's some things I don't like about the nursing home. That's a whole different story.
But and that's the stuff that you work with. So again, you know, so I'll be there to do whatever. Now, again, I was also fortunate that my sister lives in the same town. We both live in the same town. The nursing home is in the same town. So either one of us is 10 minutes away from the place. So again, it's not like she's so far that you got to plan a trip to get there. We can get there anytime we wanted. My sister's retired, my oldest one. And she was able to get, and again, like I said, going back to that can't thing that I talked about before, some people don't have the capacity, or sometimes the capacity runs out. Because what happened was with her situation, her husband's mom lived with them, and she took care pretty much of her mother-in-law for all that time. And then a few years later, her husband got sick and died. So she was in a situation where two people very dear to her, obviously her dearest person, her husband, and the mother-in-law died. So then when it came to a point where it was like, okay, well, mom is in a situation where she needs help. She's like, no, I ran out. You know what I'm saying? So certain people, you're in that situation long enough, and then everybody thinks, well, you're the automatic default that, yeah, well, you've been doing it, so you might as well keep doing it. And some people say, no, I've done enough. You got other siblings. Y'all need to. I was faithful to my husband and to his mother, and I served basically. But I'm not going to be the perpetual person who's always serving. It's like, no. So it had to come on me because, like I said, everybody else either mental capacity or patience or ability or distance. So I was chosen by default. But it wasn't like I was running up to the line and saying, and do this. But I think certainly just everything being considered, yeah, I think I was the best equipped to do it. I didn't think so at the time, especially since I had two parents like you did. But I was able to pull it off. But my sister, she got to a point in her life where she could be much more of an emotional support, which I needed. So again, she would be the one, since she's retired, she can go to, at towards the end, like in the last few months, she was there almost every day or several times a week. She would be there just hanging out with mom. And they would talk and do all the stuff, whatever. So she gave a lot of that support that eased me up so I could still take care of the business. But she was there to give that support that she really needed. And so, so it takes a lot, and you have to be able to take people where they are. Like, my thing has always been this: give me what you got. Don't give me what you do not have. So if you're the type of person that's like, you know what, I can only do this, then fine, I'll take that. But don't say you're going to do something and then don't deliver. You know what I'm saying? Say I only got an hour once a month, fine. Just make good on that out and go. And some people never went. You know what I'm saying? Never went to see.
Well, I want to speak on that part. A little everything. In my case, like, I don't have any brothers and sisters. I do everything on my own. And I mentioned this on the gray area and on this specific show. And you know this, Paul. You've seen the whole situation with first view. And people who do have brothers and sisters is not always, hey, I got backup. In Paul's case, he didn't get backup. He get a big 2 middle fingers like I did. Like, people trying to get in my business, like my cousin trying to send, he like, send your mother to Greece and help your father. And I'm like, first of all, mind your fucking business. You're not in my goddamn, he tried to be the head of the family always. And I told him, mind your fucking business, because you're not in this situation. So go fuck yourself. Thank God I didn't listen to him, because 6 months later, she got diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer.
Yeah.
So I'll be running to Greece trying to save her ass then. So I prefer have him, around, at least in a 2-hour drive, meaning my father's in New York and my mom's here. I want to bring my father to PA eventually and nursing him up here. I trust. So besides all of that, I'm doing the best I can with my situation.
Yeah.
It's so much there, and people don't understand. And sometimes I do vent online with you guys, and a lot of times I vent with you, Paul, on private too. And you need to have that venting session. I'm like, I don't have a wife, I don't have a girlfriend. I have Mrs. Pamela, and that's it. It's right here. Hi, Miss Pamela, right here. Says hi. That's been, that's all I have. So I don't have the person to say, hey, give me a fucking hug. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what I will say is when you do have somebody, it helps so fucking much.
Yeah. Well, again, so right now, and that's why, I mean, that my mom's funeral, I got real emotional because I talked about my wife. Like she really just in so many ways. Well, she was the woman that I needed. You know what I mean? I mean, she came into my life at a time when it was like, um I mean, she really my wife doesn't say much. She's not a big talker. She's not a big, Wonder Woman, whatever, but she gives such emotional support and stability. She's emotionally very stable. And that having her that come into my life to give me that was that's just I'm just so grateful for her and how she allowed me. I talked about this on other shows that she allowed me to be a man because, like I said, I got married because I wanted sex. So I don't I admit that, but she allowed me to become a man. She allowed me to become a husband. She allowed me to become a father, and she is um, instrument. Even though she may not think, well, I don't do much. And I just let her know then. I was like, yeah, you did, in so many ways. I don't want to say, well, hyperbole, say, oh, you saved my life or whatever, but my life would be so radically different if I didn't have her in my life. And so yeah, I feel you in terms of having that person. And so, that's why I'm with everything that goes on. I'm still grateful to God. I just thank God that, he blessed me with her. And, so yeah, that's huge. And just someone, like I said, I would vent or whatever, but she never got, again, her personality is such. She's a great listener. She talks about, I don't know what my gifts are, right? She's always talking about, especially with Christian people, we talk about what's your gift. And her gift is the ability to listen, and so she definitely gave me the breath. There were times, especially when I had to really move to get my father situated and my mom. It was like basically both of them were going through stuff at the same time, and I had to take some time off work, whatnot. And I just told her, she's like, "What do you need?" I basically said, "Look, I need you to run things household wise. Look, I need you to handle the kids. I need you to handle the parent teacher conferences at school. I need you to handle stuff so I can focus in on the parents. So I don't even want to hear how they did in school. How was the dance recital? How was it? I literally had to take a step out of being a father and then sometimes a husband's role in order to go into high, because I had to do things real fast to get my parents in a better situation. So, and she basically said, I got it. Do what you got to do. And she's always been this way. Do what you have to do. I got this. And that was, again.
I have a give credit to your wife for doing that, because most women won't have done that, to be honest with you. Because, from what my experience, I might be wrong. But when you find that right woman who does that for you, we don't realize as men, our backbones is our wife's girlfriend or other half, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
when you find the other half is your backbone, that's it, bro. You good.
Yeah, I tell you, man.
You got
Like I
lucky.
said, you know, I know in these spaces we talk a lot about, the dysfunctional men and women and stuff like that, man. But I'm just very, again, I'm just very blessed, and I don't think that she is so unique that I think there's love to be had out there. I mean, as we raised 2 daughters that, we're hoping that will be a benefit and use. I mean, they're shaping up to be young women. I just had my middle one just turned 23. So, you know, there's women out there. I mean, you just gotta be prayerful and seek God while you're seeking her. And I just pray that for you, Pete, that you find that woman that's going to be that bedrock for you. That is going to be when the storms are there, when it's ride or die, that she's going to be there for you, man. And I pray for every man, for every single man, for if you're married and your wife can become that. But again, my wife was that for me, and some of that I didn't necessarily, because she's so steady with stuff. Sometimes like you don't, it's almost like the player on a team who's not like, you're not the superstar, but you're not but at the same time you're the cog in the wheel. You make things work. A lot of those sort of players, they kind of get underappreciated sometimes because they're not going to do the big splashy play or whatever, but they're just like the steady drumbeat that just kind of keeps things going. And sometimes you take that for granted. Sometimes you think, oh, well, this person's out here, they're sexy, or this person's this or that or whatever, they're flashy or whatever. But again, they call it a flash in a pan for a reason. But again, that steady beat, consistent, persistent. I can come home. I know exactly the type of one. I never had to come home and worry about what mood or temperament my wife is in. She's been the same person, steady. And that is, especially when you're going through rocky and turbulent times, that, you realize that is what you need more so than the hot girl who's going to, she's going to be fun. She might be great in bed. She might be all that stuff to you. But, when stuff goes down, that's when, is she going to be there for you in those, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm serious, bro. I'm praying for you on that, buddy. That you can tell you if you know somebody, hook them up.
I'm in PA, by
we
the way.
We gotta start networking, man. To tell you, so
what I was gonna say, dude, with me is, I know we're off topic. I don't care,
right?
But it's more like keep me in check because I have 100 things going on in his head.
Sure.
I the stream. I got my mother. I got the dog. I got work. I got this. I got that. It's like, and I told one of my girlfriends once before, like, if you want me to be already pissed off, like if you really don't want me to talk to you next day, we can be mad at each other as much. But 2 things I expect from you always. Doesn't matter how mad we are, how bad we are. It's a kiss goodnight, and I love you. Too bad. Same thing as you wake up. Kiss goodbye without love you. If you don't keep those 2 things, you're gonna have one pissed off Greek coming home. I told her that straight. She says, "Why is that so important to you?" It just ensures me you were okay. Doesn't matter how bad a fight is. It just ensures me that.
Yeah.
Or the problems or whatever. It's just a little insurance. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just you're like, no, I'm not secure. That's how I am.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps. But it's interesting you talk about that because I think a lot of is getting back to the the mental issues or whatnot. And I think it's getting a little bit harder in these times is that loneliness. You know what I mean? I mean, people, we're meant to be with people. We're meant to mate, Adam and Eve or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love to mate.
So all these people talk about I could be single all by myself and I can be dad all by myself and I can, single life and hey, single ladies and all that. I'm like,
we had the same conversation going on New York Comic-Con, if you remember.
Yeah.
And I told you, I hate being single because I just listen. It's less work for me. Once I know I have that specific woman in my life, and I can focus on her, I'm good. I don't need 20 bimbos down the road for me. I'm good. Like, you're not gonna see me texting other women. I got female friends, obviously, but I'm not gonna be like, looking at other girls. Like, listen, I know who I'm sleeping next to. who I'm banging into the night, who I'm kissing,
Yep.
who I'm in love to.
Yeah. And it is interesting because guys have talked about these successful men, these millionaires and whatnot. Again, a lot of times it's because of it's the wife at home. It's or that steady husband or partner that really keeps things down. You know what I mean? It's not you can have the flashy guy. I mean, that's why, a lot of women, you want to you want to date the cool guy and the guy who's looks like coming out of GQ magazine or whatever. But again, is he going to be that steady dude who's going to love you for you? Or are you chasing after, the guy that everybody wants? Well, the guy that everybody wants, Kevin Samuels used to talk about this, like, those type of men, they have options. So what makes you think you're the one who's going to be able to tie him down? But that person is going to be, again, loyal, ride or die, who's going to be, again, that consistent person.
And that is the problem we're having now, loyalty. We don't have that anymore. Because it could be online dating, it could be whatever the case is.
Right.
The loyalty in a relationship or in a marriage is not there anymore.
Yeah, but I still think there's a lot there to be had, because I think a lot of people are looking for that. I think women want loyalty. I think men want loyalty. It's just about getting those people who want loyalty, getting them together.
See, it's funny. I hear that all the time, but I don't see it out in dating game.
Yeah. Well, you've shared with me, you've had a very interesting dating history. So it's kind of, so like I said, you may have to change up some locations and possibly some addresses or whatnot.
I swear to God, it's a PA thing. I believe it's a PA thing.
Into a better dating pool, for sure. But yeah, bars and going bars or whatever it is, that might not be the.
I told you, the bar thing was never my thing.
Right.
I never went to the bar and pick up a chick. I was never my thing. I met a couple people from bars and I became friends with them, but I never became a person who went to the bar and started grabbed the first girl and started hanging out with her. I was never like that.
Right.
I was always more like I go with my group. I went with my group and I left with my group kind of bar. And I'm not a big bar person, believe it or not. Like the last time I was at a bar was recently, and because I was bored, I want to have a drink. And I realized I was too old for this shit. I need to get the fuck out of there, because I was like, it's a lot of kids from college, and I'm a 38-year-old in there with all these kids. Deuces, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I don't like a bar when you're like this. Like, you can't move. You're like claustrophobic. That's
Right.
That's too much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's but again, a little more strategic. I mean, we'll talk in the future about this, but I can tell you again, some girl. I mean, you come off as a very high quality, high class person, and you don't allow a lot of riffraff around you. So again,
I got one comment for her.
Work in the network.
She's always on our streams. When is she going to join us?
Yeah, well, look, I take it as they give it. So again, the fact that she follows us or whatnot, I really appreciate that, and all the ladies. I mean, gray areas, like the ladies stopping first from Indonesia steps in to Lady Navoa steps in, Boss Ladies 3307. So all the ladies who come, I really appreciate that they that they follow us, and so what she does in the chat, the information that she shares there and whatnot. So I just appreciate. Yeah, I would love to have a show. Maybe she could be a guest on the Gray Area one day. I would love.
I love that. I think
I would love to do that, but everything in its own time. When she feels comfortable with that, yes, and it'll be quite a surprise. We definitely appreciate it.
I will give her this offer. If you're one to come on, just send me your email. Any of the group chats I have or any social media I have, you're more welcome to just find me, and me and Paul will set it up. Again, there's no pressure. It's not like we're peer pressuring you. Just saying. But certainly you do look like a classy woman, and I would love to get to know you. Get to know you a little personal level. If that didn't sound too creepy. But you know what I meant. But back to our original conversation, we were saying, like, it's just, I believe mental health and dating goes together, believe it or not. Actually, that's a good topic for a show, by the way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully in a positive direction, because it's like a lot. people's mental health gets compromised. But again, a lot of times you're with a person that you don't need to be with. So
That what
again,
happened to me.
yeah.
I was with the wrong woman,
right,
and I was getting mentally and physically abused, and I didn't realize it was bad till I got out of it.
yeah,
Once I got out of it, I was like, yeah, I need some help.
right.
And there's
right.
some moments still, I'm not gonna deny it, but my moments are less, far between each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a work in progress. It's always going to be a work in progress, ever since stuff like that. And I think after COVID, we realized everybody has some type of mental health, and it just some are more severe than others.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
and we're all working on it.
Right. Yeah. But this was good. I definitely went over a little bit longer than I need to, but like I said, this time I really do need to drop off and take
Well,
his
I
to
think I
get
might
work
end it
tomorrow.
here tonight because
Yeah.
no other guests, and I don't want to talk to myself.
Right.
So
Right.
what
Right.
happened?
No, right. No, I agree.
I'm gonna call it here. So guys, we're gonna finish up early, a little bit early tonight. I got some work to do anyway. Except that, Paul, anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, this was I think this was a certainly good topic. I thank you for
Mhm.
allowing me to share and certainly share a bit more about my story. So again, as far as the book thing, I'll give it some consideration. But yeah, but I'm always open. I think especially now, I don't think I would necessarily would have been as willing just because she was alive, and I may not have been as open to talking about these sort of things while she was still alive, just out of respect. But I think that now I'm in a place where I'm free essentially, and I can certainly share a bit more, and we still have that difficulty. Thank you. We still have that difficulty having these conversations because for a lot of people it's embarrassing. It's
It is.
whether they've gone through mental health issues or they've lived with someone through that or whatever. I mean, it's not an easy subject to cover, but I think that again, if we want to see some progress in the future and whatnot, and let people know that hey, um, you can survive it. You can get through some things, especially if you had to deal with a loved one that you had to see go through that sort of thing. That certainly I give credit to, like I said, my wife, and ultimately I give credit to my God um, for coming into my, because I didn't grow up with God. I didn't accept Christ until 23, so almost 24. So so certainly my walk with Him has definitely helped me in a lot of different ways. And again, the last thing I wanted to say was, in fact, I think I started the story and I might have stopped. It's one of the last times I saw her, and that angst that I had going into the room or being with her. I remember I was feeding her, and I'm like literally, because she had like this modified diet. It's like a pureed diet, so it's like you're feeding her like a baby, like you're
Yeah, I know what period that is.
spooning in, and I'm feeding her. I'm kind of doing this, and as I'm feeding every bite, I don't know what happened. It was like just a weight came off, if that makes sense. It was just whatever feelings, anger, resentment, bitterness, it just came off me. It's hard to, again, I just give the credit to God. But I was able to release a lot of that and just loved her. Like I didn't feel that emotion towards her. Like I said, for some time I wouldn't allow myself to, because of the situation. Like I said, I had to be cold. But in doing that, I just loved her again. It's like really like
In a way, did you think you knew that might be her last time you see her?
no. Well, I mean, she was in a palliative care program, and but the interesting thing was she actually had gotten better, because we were thinking she had some surgeries and stuff. And again, when you're diabetic or whatnot, surgeries, like it's hard to heal from that and all that. So
Mhm.
so we actually got good news, a good report that she was doing a lot better, and that she was, that they were even considering moving her off the program. But she had a cardiac arrest, issue, and that's, it came very suddenly, and that's what did her in. Nobody was expecting it though. And everybody was, in fact, my sister, she was coming. This happened in July. My sister was coming from Vegas. She comes every year in August, and she was looking forward to spending time with her and, going over there, painting her nails and just hanging out with mom and all that. You know what I mean? So nobody, like I said, it came suddenly. The turnaround, within 24 hours, it was done. It just came. But I did, like I said, probably the week prior or a few days prior, that was that time I went and saw her. And no, I was not expecting that at all, quite frankly. So it wasn't, in fact, if anything, it was looking like going the other way, that she was certainly well on her way to, and again, she's not going to live another 20 years or whatever. She was 86 years old. So, I'm not expecting that, but certainly I was expecting, certainly over the summer and into the fall, holidays and things like that.
At least another year, another couple
at least,
months to a year.
It was, yeah. But again, when
Bro, like that's why
that,
when people, you see me and my mom arguing, like, yeah, like, how do you talk to your mother at 77, 76-year-old? Oh, like, she just threw a goddamn fucking phone at me. I'm like, that's our relationship. We scream and yell at each other, but I let her fight like that. Because it means she's fighting. She's ready to fight still. She hasn't given up. Sorry, dry throat. Really fast. Let's go over a relapse of the next couple episodes. And let's end it there. Saturday we are talking about Comic-Con again. We're gonna go relapse the show. I have sent emails of a couple of people I actually met there. Not celebrities. Don't get too excited. I'm working on that still. But some of the press conference people who did interviews with me and stuff like that, and Paul. So we have that coming on. I'm gonna be here. Hashim is supposed to be coming back this week. So I'm trying to work the details with him right now. How we're gonna do that as well, because his situation is not he doesn't have a quiet room. He told me, because I'm trying to get him in the studio with me. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get 2 cameras going this once.
Gotcha. Hey, I can tell you, just FYI, a rollerball, it's free on YouTube right now. Just look up the full movie, and it's now. I don't know. I have a YouTube subscription, so I don't know if it's if she has a subscription. So I don't know if it's free because I have the subscription, but it is free. I literally just watched it this past week. Like I said, I watched that movie so many times. I was like, I almost quote lines from it. So, but yeah, it's the full movie. No rip or anything like that. It's the real thing. Look it up for free on YouTube, and you should better watch it if you're interested. But yeah, and everybody, especially because it is free, because again, it may not be free for long. They just like anything else, they cycle movies in and out. So for anybody again who hasn't had an opportunity to see the movie, I think it's definitely worth definitely worth your watch.
Yeah. Movies. Anything with movies, me, bro. Okay, so on next Thursday, we're gonna be talking about why do men want to use condoms. I think it's a talk we need to start having a little bit, because we're raw dogging it.
I'm gonna have to sit that out.
I think you need to join.
I got no reference, man.
No, you do, because wait a minute, bro. Because you talk about it all the time is guys having kids or not being married. So you always say that. So I think
that's true. Yeah.
You need to join that conversation.
I say I don't have a lot of personal experience with that anymore.
Don't need to express that. Get your ass over here. That's what I care about. 11/2, November 2nd. It's gonna be He-Man versus Lion-O, the battle of the 80s. I'm looking forward to that conversation, to be honest with you. And 11/7, we're gonna be talking about why do we cheat. That's the conversation. I'm curious how it's gonna go. And on 11/9, we're talking about if Anakin Skywalker was the real chosen one. And Angry Elf from Pop Culture Warrior is supposed to be joining us on that conversation. Dude, if you see his Star Wars collection, it's beyond insanity.
Right.
He literally sold like not even a quarter, like maybe like 1% of his collection. And he literally paid for his whole vacation of Florida with him and his wife.
Yeah, that's nice.
Like, but before we go, I want one question. I don't want to spoil too much. Your new toy, did you set it up?
I did.
Bluetooth?
Yeah. So I got the app, downloaded the app, and set it. It's interesting though, because I don't know if it's a Vader's Vault blade. Because I went to because it wasn't marked, so I went to the website, the Vader's Vault website, and I looked at. I couldn't find it, but I did find it under NEO Saber. So I actually asked them, it's like, hey, you and Vader Volt, do you guys collaborate or whatever? Or do they own you or something like that? And they said no. So I was just wondering, how they get that saber, or what was it called? So it's but again, Neo Sabers had it, or NEO Saber, whatever they call it. But
Neo Saber is actually a very good company too, believe it or not.
Yeah. So I don't know if they just had some sort of deal. Yeah.
Because I actually this is my second one, so I make a little collection. Let me find what I have in my notes. Here it is. So Neo Sabers on my list to buy one, and Saber Neo, 2 different companies. They're just spelled a little differently, reverse actually. They're 2 different companies, and they're a little more detailed of Volt. For example, if you drag it on the floor, it literally does a sparking on the blade, like you're actually dragging a real one. So some things are different. Dude, I'll bring mine out when we do tomorrow's show. Saturday show, to show you one versus the other quality wise.
Yeah.
And when I say I seen them, you might be right, I might be wrong, because last time I checked him out a year ago at Comic-Con again, he was charging $800. So when he said 300, that's why I jumped on it so fast.
Right.
Yeah, I emailed him to come on a show. Like, I spoke to him. He hasn't got back to me yet. So I'm sure he's pretty busy after Comic-Con. I'll give him like another week or 2. I'll email him again.
Yeah.
Till he says no, it's free game for emails.
Right.
So accept that. Overall, I love him. This new one. It's a very sick weapon, I believe. Sick weapon toy. It's not a real lightsaber.
Yeah, it's very nice. And I was trying to get some stuff for I forgot to ask at the show, did they have a cover tech wheel? So I ordered when I went on to site. I ordered now I tried to get one from NEO Sabers. The problem is the thing was like $25 for the cover tech wheel and the belt clip. It was $39 shipping. I said no, thank you. So I went on to another website, found a set. I got it for about $27. But yeah, I was almost out of principle. I'm not going to spend more for shipping than it is for the actual product. So
I found a trick. Most of these companies, Sabers and all that stuff, they're on Amazon.
I went to Amazon. They didn't have it. Really? So I went to where did I buy that?
Send me a picture of that. What you got when you get it in?
Yeah. I'll send you the.
I'm curious how it looks. To be honest with you, because eventually I'm going to have to get it.
Well, it's going to take some time. I was hoping to get it by Halloween. I don't think I'm going to get it by then. It might be like first week of November by the time I get it. But yeah, that's why I went to Amazon first. Well, Amazon has the belt clip, but they don't sell the cover text. So the actual thing that you got to is got to screw into your existing saber, and then you put the end cap on it, and that goes into the belt clip. So they had the clips, but they don't have the cover text there.
So Paul, is it safe next year? You might dress it up as Jedi Comic-Con.
Possibly this year. I'll keep that under wraps.
I need to add a Star Wars sound effect to my soundboard here. I think it'd be pretty cool. But the difference, what I would say about the other sabers versus this, you get all the colors you want in it. That's a plus.
Right.
Most of them you don't. You only get one color.
Yeah. Well, we got the NeoPixel also, so that's good. So
that's the top of the line right now.
Yeah, that's definitely the customizations there. Although I still wouldn't do. I know they say you can do light dual. I have no intentions to duel with it because
you could with this. Okay, so
they say you can, but again, you can't go full ham.
You see that one in the background behind me?
Yeah,
Saber?
Yeah.
That is not a dueling one. That's a show off one, like showing.
Correct. Yeah, that's not the Neo Blade, a NeoPixel is more for show. But if you want to go out, then you got to get like an RGB saber because the main part is in the saber itself. Whereas with the NeoPixel, everything's in the sword.
You saying RGB is better than Neo? I thought Neo was higher.
Bro, I'm saying the quality of the blade, the luminescence and everything is much better with the NeoPixel. Absolutely. And the stuff you can do is definitely with the NeoPixel. But if you're talking about banging, like really, because they actually have competitions now. You know what I mean? Like
I was literally talking about this yesterday.
Lightsaber. I mean, guys, just like the Kendo battle, like the martial arts, the Kendo sticks and whatnot. It's the same rules. So if you want those, then you want the RGB because all of the tech is in the pommel, it's in the handle, not in the sword. The sword, you can break it and just put another one on and it fires up fine. But with the NeoPixel, a lot of the tech is in the sword itself, the blade itself. So if you bang too much on that, in fact, I saw a YouTube video, these guys were going just different degrees and stuff, and you can clearly see now it was tough, like it would crack and split and everything. It would still light up, but then what good is that? So, you know, with those, you definitely want a dueling saber, which is cheaper. And again, the blades themselves are pretty, pretty reasonable as far as the pricing.
You know what I realized also by looking more, because I want to get more, like I said, they used to be like Saberforce was one of them. There were over like 2, maybe 5 companies. Now there are over a dozen companies you can buy a saber from.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
yeah, I was considering Kyberlite initially. Again, I know it's on the level of grading, they're kind of like on the lower end or the budget end. But the nice thing about it was it's customizable. Like they have these sleeves. You can take stuff off, put stuff on, and make it do different things.
One good thing about Saberforce, if you can do a customized right from their website and pick what kind of part, what kind of this, what kind of color. All these are handmade, bro. Every single one of these.
No, I get it. It's like I said, it's different. That's what I'm saying. To me, the budget option would have been the Kyberlite because again, you can literally change the head, the pommel, the header, slide on and off. Now they have NeoPixel. Now they got the NeoPixel blades now. So again, it's not a bad option if you want that level of customization. So I was kind of thinking about that, but we'll have to say yeah, Star Wars theory. Yeah, he's a psycho. But listen, man, let me definitely
let's get out of here.
And we can hash this out on the certainly on the Hangout show. We can
I think we need to do a whole episode on sabers.
Yeah,
I'll put it in my notes. All right, guys. As always, this is the Spartan HQ Network. He is Mr. President. I can't talk right now. I am Ghost of Sparta. As always, stay fresh, stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.